one of my favorite things that came from Tobias, too, was he always said, you are never alone. And I think that's a really important thing, that because when people start that process, oftentimes they feel separate. They feel like they don't relate to the situation. They've taken this step back. And it's important for people to realize that you're never alone, that there's always support there for you.
Isn't that true, Linda? I mean, we love to communicate that to people when we're out traveling, is that you're not alone. And just to see that look that comes over their face, like, wow, there's somebody who understands. There are other humans that are going through this. And more than anything, it's not a religion. It's not a dogma. You don't have to join anything. And it's not just exclusive to Crimson Circle, of course. There's a lot of other information out there, like through Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon. And you realize, I'm not alone. And suddenly you realize that the awakening process has a tremendous amount of energy to it as well. Of course, most people realize it because they're getting whammied with it. But it's like, wow, now how can I take that ball of energy and utilize it in a way that I choose?
This comment on being alone, I think, is really poignant as well, because I think that, at least I've heard from my listeners, and that there can be a sense of being surrounded by people and still not being able to shake that loneliness.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of like an alien on your own planet. And that's very, very prevalent. Because you are going into an introspective mode in a very, very life-changing type of mode, and suddenly you do feel different or isolated from people.
Disconnected.
Yeah. Well, we've heard a lot of people say, geez, I used to enjoy going to parties, and I started going through this process, and I go to the party and wonder, what's wrong with me? I just don't mix in. I don't enjoy it anymore. And again, they start self-analyzing, which comes from the mind, which tends to be limited. And instead of saying, wow, look at this, I'm going through an amazing process, they become critical of themselves. And, well, that leads to a lot of anxiety and depression and everything else.
It sounds like they're working against themselves.
It does. And, I want to point out that this awakening process is totally natural. In other words, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to read any books. You don't have to take any courses, or you don't have to do anything. A long time ago, Tobias said, it's going to happen anyway to everyone sooner or later, and it's happening right now to so many people because the consciousness of Earth is changing.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of us that have had many, many lifetimes on Earth, and we finally said, it's time for ascension. It's time to pull it all together. And there's this tremendous awakening that's happening on a very personal level and also on a very global level. One of the other issues, the symptoms that we see quite a bit and really throws people off is the I'm trying to think how to state it, the desire or the wondering if they even want to be here anymore, the desire to go home, thinking that home is someplace else. And this is really challenging because they then start feeling guilty, start thinking, oh my gosh, are these suicidal thoughts, and what's wrong with me? I just don't want to even be here. It's probably the toughest of all the things that somebody will go through, and it leads to even more of that loneliness, more of the depression. I want to make it very clear to people that is not suicidal. What's happening is you start awakening, and you start remembering home, where we all came from, and you start remembering that you are God also. And you start reconnecting at some level, usually not conscious right away, but some level with the essence of home. There is that desire to want to go back, to want to be in the arms of home, of spirit. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that you're remembering. What Tobias reminded us a long time ago, that you actually don't go home. You don't go back to some homogeneous bliss or whatever, but home comes to you, and home comes to you in this lifetime while you're in this body, while you're here on Earth.
Hi there, my name is Nina Wallinder, and I wanted to talk to you about Layers of Health. Layers of Health is a free online community dedicated to investigating holistic and alternative health options. These options can include physical health, mental and emotional health, business health, as well as your spiritual health. So you can join me as I discuss your health concerns with various experts, mentors, and leaders in their fields. And these interviews are offered for free live, as well as during special encore presentations. But if you find one that is particularly interesting to you, you can also purchase it. So you can join me at www.layersofhealth.com, and I'll see you on the calls.